All right. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Heromakers Podcast. Ann, how's it going up there in Toronto?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's actually beautiful.
Yeah.
It's actually baking hot.
Is it really? What is it? What's the temperature?
Early November, well, in Celsius, it's 13.
No. So what, 40, 45, 50? Is that the Fahrenheit
I don't
translation?
know what Fahrenheit is, but it is awesome.
I'm going to say it's like 45 or 50, which is like similar to what it is here. It's like 45, right? Is it sunny up there too?
Oh, so sunny. People are running around like they're
like
so
it's summer in their shorts.
Mm-hmm.
So I vacillate, Ann, between like being really excited about this warmer weather and like kind of freaking out because of global warming. Because I'm like, what? No. Like this is not supposed to be normal, but it's still lovely, and it's right. You just don't know how to feel. That's this whole year.
Thank
right?
you.
Oh, our guest is telling us right now that it's actually 55 degree Fahrenheit, you guys. So
thank you for translating before us.
That's right, which is incredible. It's incredible. But yeah, I feel like this whole year, it's like you vacillate between like, is this good or bad, right? We made it though, Ann. We're getting there. So Ann, I am very excited about our two guests today. And boy, I'm hoping that you two also like will end us. Maybe you can like end this podcast with a little bit of Spanish, because both of them are I was telling them how I don't know much Spanish, so I'm gonna like butcher their names, but we're so glad to have you guys on. So today we have on Angela Hurtado and David Araya, who founded
Hello.
who founded this amazing organization called Hope, which is her Hispanic organization promoting education. And they are working with Hispanic students. Well, they were just in one country, but they're going to tell us how they're exponentially multiplying right now due to kind of COVID, right? Forced growth, we'll call it that. But they're working with Hispanic high school students primarily to just help them to thrive, right? And to graduate and to realize their potential. And in a little bit, you guys, I'm going to like praise you for your like 5 value statements on your website, because I saw those and I was just like, oh, it's like overwhelmed. So welcome, Angela. Welcome, David, to the Heromakers Podcast. How are you guys today?
We are great. Thank you for having us. We're excited to chat, and we're just grateful to be here.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much, Laurie, and a big hello to you and your entire audience. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Oh man, it's good to have you guys. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself, Angela, a little bit about you, where you grew up, and maybe you can even interweave the story of how you and David met. But yeah, just give us a little introduction about from
Sure. You. I am originally from Colombia, South America. Nice. I lived there until I was 8 years old, and then from there, my family and I came to the United States, to Georgia, in around 1997, and then I've been in Georgia since then. So Georgia's on my mind, definitely, and I'm grateful to be here now.
Classic. We gotta get that song. Yeah, good. Georgia on my mind.
Yes.
Okay, so you've been here since you were 8, and do you have a large family, Angela?
We are only 4, so I have a sister and then my mom and dad. Okay. So we're super close with my sister, but our family's not as large. I know David, once you jump into knowing a little bit more about David, he'll tell you about his family. It's a little bit bigger. They have a lot more flavor going on.
Good. Okay. So you're a Georgia girl, Columbia and Georgia girl. Okay, David, what about you? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I am originally from the wonderful Costa Rica down in Central America. Born, raised there until I was 5. My family actually immigrated to Pennsylvania back when we first arrived here. I was there for a little bit, came down south, landed in Georgia in 1998. Been here ever since. My family, when we first came, there was 5 of us. I am the oldest in the entire family. So it was myself, my brother, my sister, and then since we've been here, our family has grown to 7. So we have I have a little sister who's in college now, the second youngest, and then my little sister is in 8th grade. So it's a total of 7 of us. My mom and dad, they brought us here for a better life. And really, the thing about Angela and myself is we actually went to the same high school and never knew each other. We had the same mentor and never knew each other. We lived our parents lived 2 miles away and we never met. which was, I think, Angela, you can agree, it was probably the best thing that we did not meet in high school.
Indeed.
This would not have happened at all.
Would you guys not have been friends in high school?
Yeah, I mean, maybe friends, Angela.
Possibly. I think we were both in different mindsets, I think, in high school, definitely.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. But I mean, our lives really collided because we both we have a lot of similarities in our stories. We immigrated here, our parents came here, but we ourselves, we also grew up as undocumented students. And, you know, for us, finding a way to go to college was a hard thing, whether it's, you know, can we go, can we pay, how do we pay, all that jazz. And we went through that, you know, at different times, but the same thing. And Angela, you know, she actually went down to Savannah for school, and I had a different option. I wanted to go somewhere else, Georgia State here. And our paths completely changed. She ended up going. She was there for about a year or so, and I wasn't able to go to the school that I wanted to. But our paths collided because we ended up going to the same school at the same time, and that's where we met. So it kind of, we were brought back into you know, the similar community where we live. And a good close friend of mine from the scholarship that I got actually told me, dude, I need you to meet this girl. Her name is Angela. And she went to the same high school you went to. I'm like, Angela? I've heard of Angela. Our mentor, literally, she had in her office, she had a wall of pictures. And Angela's photo was flat center right there. And she would always tell me about Angela. So that's where, you know, so I knew about her, and obviously that's where we met. And our first encounter was, Angela, how would you describe it?
I mean, it was short. David is very charismatic, and so girls are very used to being like, David, and I was just more like, hi, pleasure to meet you, where are you from? And that was about it. So he says I cut him off. I was just very to the point, more like that.
She completely cut me off, which is okay. You know, she was playing hard to get, and that's fine.
It. It's like the chase, right? It's like the chase.
Yeah. But that's how we ended up meeting. Okay. We actually became really good friends too.
Okay, good. Okay, is it that was how many years ago?
That was back in 2008. 12 years. Wow. Yeah, we met over 12 years ago.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so I'm going to just transition to your website here, because we're going to talk about you kind of writing on a yellow napkin with a black marker, a black pen, and how your organization got started, because you guys dreamed it up together, which I think is amazing, that it's like you had this collaborative vision that set you on this life mission, which is fascinating. But I love your website. So that's one. I just wanted, and we're going to include that in your show notes. Can you tell people what your website is real quick?
Yeah, definitely. Hopestrong.org, www.hopestrong.org. It's a beautiful website. Angela leads the marketing aspect. So, hey, Angela, great job.
Well done, Angela.
Our team is awesome.
So if you guys go there and then you hop on, I think it's the About Us page, you can like actually scroll and see a timeline of kind of what happened, and then also just like some of your values and all of that. And I just think it's really well laid out, and it's really compelling. So why don't you guys tell us about that day that will live in history, when you guys dreamed up this organization, and what the need was that kind of birthed this?
Yeah, Angela?
Sure. So we were college students, and it was a cold January, you know, back when it got colder in January. But it was really cold. We were starving college students, as most college students are, always wanting to eat something. So we went to a local Wendy's, and we started talking, and we were just frustrated because we saw that the opportunities that students had were limited, and that a lot of the students that we would look beside us, they weren't there because they either dropped out or they had an obstacle and they weren't achieving success or going to college. And what we saw is that a lot of students would give up because of the obstacles rather than becoming stronger and overcoming those obstacles. And so David and I, we were just sitting there, and we were like, we want to do something to impact the community, to empower students. And David and I, we both faced a lot of obstacles and stereotypes, labels. And so we were like, we need to be able to show the youth that there is a way to success, and that we're not the only ones that can be successful or lead the way or go to college, but that we want to create a bridge for them to be able to go stronger and get even further than we've ever gone. So we took out a black pen and a yellow napkin, and what happened, David?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was back when Wendy's had yellow napkins. So Wendy's, if you're listening, I need those back. But yeah, we took that out, and we started, dreaming up names, and the word Esperanza came up. Esperanza was our mentor's favorite word. And we wrote that down on a napkin. It was way too long in an acronym. So we completely changed it, turned the napkin over and translated it to English, and it's hope. So we put that there, and we wrote Hispanic Organization Promoting Education. We looked at that sucker and said, all right, let's see if this thing sticks around. And not only did it stick, it's changed the lives of thousands of students. That was in January. We went back to our alma mater during that semester, knocked on the door, said, we want to start this program. We want to start it here. And come August, we had our first official after-school program at North Gwinnett High School. And the organization actually became an official nonprofit that November after all the paperwork was sent in. So, Angela mentioned, we wanted to change the youth and give them hope, because we were those youth. We were 18 years old when we were having that conversation at Wendy's. And, the fact that there was so much that we were seeing, we had this passion that and when we first met, even before we met, we still have it, to really support and provide students a community where they know that they can be successful. Because if one person can do it, we can all do it. We just have to maneuver it differently at times. But that's really kind of how it got started and launched.
So David and Angela, on this show, we have a lot of people who have that entrepreneurial spirit, which is what you guys have. And, right, so you guys, there was a need, and then you thought, okay, it's just going to be this school, right? We're going to start at this school and with these students. And did you in the early days, did you dream that it would turn into what it was going to be, what it would be today? Or at the time, was it more like, we're just going to take this day by day, and this is for the season of life? Or kind of what was your thinking in those early days?
Well, I think for us, and Angela, butt in whenever you'd like on this, but for us, we had no intention of running a nonprofit. I wanted to be a corporate CEO. Angela, you wanted to be I
was going to go to law school. Yeah.
I mean, we even after we started it, we kept our careers, in college with that, desire. So, this was a huge change for us. So even as we were going through those early stages, we knew we had something special when the students flocked it immediately. And then when we saw that it went from 1 to 2 the first year, and then it started 2 to 5, 5 to 11, quickly in 4 years, we were at 11 schools, and we're like, oh my goodness, wow, we may have to reconsider a few things.
Yeah. And I think it began as a hobby, as a passion. And then we started to see that it was becoming our career. And so that's when we started to make shifts and think about it as well, more strategically. Because again, it was out of passion that something birthed. It was out of obstacles that we faced that we were like, let's go, let's do this. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. But I think there's beauty in that, because that's what we jumped. And I think David and I are both just visionaries, and we dream big. We're like, let's go, let's empower. And that gave us the fuel to then figure things out as we were going along.
Yeah.
And you started this when you were 18?
David was 18, I was 20.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What? That's incredible. Way to go.
Thank you.
Obviously there's a need, because when you're like, here we go, and then they're like, yes, and then they're all on board. That is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for us, the way that we saw it, we went back to our alma mater, and I had family there, and we knew students there, and we knew the need there because we lived it. And for us, it was just something so powerful to have a community inside the school for students that were like us, and I think that is something that is needed. It wasn't needed just there. It's needed across the country. And for us, it's been a blessing, a privilege, and an honor to be able to do this work. And the fact that we get to do it together, it's a cherry on top too.
Yes.
I'm curious, actually, what did your mentor think?
Angela, what did you think?
She was excited. I think because we worked with administration when we were in high school, they were like, okay, come on in and support. We've seen your work, do as you want. And then one of the things that she told us was baby steps to begin with. And we were like, okay, baby steps. And then we went running. But she was so excited and that we were working together as leaders and that we were there to support the Hispanic community. And I think one of the reasons she was so excited is because within the school systems, they're doing the best that they can with what they have. But oftentimes, counselors or teachers, they're doing so much and there are so many students that they can't meet the needs of certain students, specifically minorities at times. I remember being like in AP classes, but being the only Latina. And so I felt like I didn't belong. And I had, again, stereotypes left and right from even administrators at times that just really hindered me. I was labeled as a gangster. There's a whole story behind that, but it was just awful. And so one of the things that we had is like, if we experience so many things, we could just imagine what other students were experiencing. So we wanted to create a place where students could be bilingual and they could love empanadas or arepas and hamburgers and fries and listen to hip hop, but at the same time, salsa and merengue, and see excellence with fun. And so like we intermingled our cultures and made the best of all the worlds. And that's where leadership and growth allowed students to thrive because they felt a place of belonging. And research shows that over and over again, that if a student has a sense of belonging within their school, they're more likely to be ready to learn and grow and have that desire to just become educated and reach their goals. But if they don't have a sense of belonging, that's when they get disconnected and just they are facing a lot of different risks or fall into negative behaviors. And so that sense of belonging has been, I think, one of our key just ingredients in everything that we do in the chapters is allowing students to know that they're loved, that they're valued, and that they're capable.
That's so good. I love it. Okay, so let's hop to because I feel like you're talking about your values right now. I'm going to call them values. Are these 5 things on your website your values, or what would you call them?
I don't know if they're specifically our values, but it's something that we definitely believe.
Just your beliefs, your 5 beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna call them your beliefs then.
We can call them values. It's okay.
and if I was a thief, I would steal them for our own Heromakers, but I'm not, so I won't. But I'm gonna read your 5 beliefs here, and I want if you're listening right now, like I just want you to kind of like pause and just like listen to these 5 because I think they're really powerful. 1, you were created with a reason and with a purpose. 2, everyone has the potential to accomplish their dreams. 3, we believe in the power of youth. 4, every student is one caring individual away from being a success story. And then 5, we are stronger together. So I see a couple of things in there, Angela and David. Like I see 1, just that potential, like the developer. So I'll talk like in the strengths finders, the personality test, there's a developer strength in there. And I see that, and I see community in there. And then like, of course, your focus on youth. But talk to us about, I don't know if this is specific to the Hispanic culture. So why don't we'll talk about the Hispanic culture and specifically the kids that you work with, right? The importance of kind of giving them a purpose for their life and then like a dream for the future, right? So talk to us about like why that's so important for the students that you guys serve.
Yeah, so the first value about purpose, one of the things that we tell our students is that if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And if you have a purpose, you have a reason to live. So live it to the full. And I think, when you look at those beliefs, I think, our Hispanic community, definitely it's things that can apply to us, but I think also it applies to any individual. And I think that's also why so many students that aren't of Hispanic descent also join the organization, because it's open to any of them. But, in that first belief, every single one of us is a hero. Every single one of us has a pulse. Every single one of us has purpose. And I think the biggest thing that we have to do as a community who empowers individuals is to unleash it. And some people are able to unleash it much quicker. Some people, it takes a little bit. Some people are, go on this journey of finding out what their purpose is, but each one of us has it. And, while students are with us, they may or may not find the exactly what that is, but then they actually find that they have a purpose and that they are created with a purpose. And I think that's probably one of the most important things. I think it's very important for our students, but I think it's important for people as a whole. every single person that's listening right now. I mean, every single one of us was created to do something with impact and with a purpose. And I think that's why it's also number one, because we believe that true to our hearts. And I think one of the coolest things is that we get to experience students have that revelation moment, where through a program, through a word that was said, through a conference, through like whatever it was, they were able to have that moment in their life that something clicked, and it gives them that intrinsic inspiration, motivation, like to just go. And that is one of the coolest things that we get to see and experience. But that's, I mean, is it unique to our community? I don't know if it's unique to our community. I think it's a unique piece of being a human as a whole.
Yeah, so David, do we sometimes just assume that everybody knows that they have value and they have a purpose? And if so, like, why? Like, why do we always just jump to the assumption that people are fine? Like, they're good. We don't need to help them. Or have you noticed that, or any thoughts on that? Or Angela, I don't know if either of you guys.
Yeah, Angela, I'll share a few things, but then you'll share so much more in a much more beautiful
No, you're
way.
awesome. No, you'll do amazing.
To answer your question, yes. I think that whether you're involved in leadership or you think you're a leader, whatever it is, I think we all sometimes get consumed with our own personal avenues and journeys and struggles that we often don't necessarily think about our neighbor and the person that we're working with. And you ask the question, right? You can ask anybody the question, how are you? And 8 out of 10, hey, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm great. Follow up the question with, but how are you really? And you're gonna get a different answer. Because the thing is, oftentimes when we're having conversation, this is it's one of the habits from Stephen Covey, seek to understand, then seek to be understood. Oftentimes we speak, and as the other person's talking, we aren't really listening. We just want to hear ourselves talk again. And I think, when we look at conversation, when we look at communication with others, if we can literally sit down and listen to the other person, we will find out so much more of how they're doing, of what they're really going through than anything. And it will allow relationships to go much deeper. But I think as a whole in society, we come to this, this thought that, people are okay. And we don't go deeper into it. And it's really unfortunate, because the moment when you do is when you're able to really go into the fruits of what a real relationship is. Angela?
No, indeed. And I think because of social media, sometimes we often put a facade. And so like people just see what we tailored or organized or curated versus what people are really going through. And so I clearly remember talking to a group of students, and we do the circle thing for the leaders, and we talk a lot about our stories, and we can connect with one another. And I remember one time we were in the circle, and one of the students, when we first began Hope, he was like, Hope has really just given me purpose, which is what we're talking about, because I literally was just at the edge of taking my life away. And I didn't. And Hope gave me the reason to keep going and to know that it was going to be okay. And when that student shared that, I just started crying, because I knew Hope was doing something again, empowering students, helping them graduate, but it was going deeper than the surface. And so I think when a student, like the second one, that the values that we have, like every student is one caring individual away from being a success story. And we deeply believe that, because when a student's able to see that someone is caring for them, or that I often tell the students, I'm holding up a mirror for you to see how amazing you are, because you truly are. But sometimes our mirror just gets fogged up, and it just gets distorted because of society, because of beliefs, because of labels, because of so many things. And so with Hope, we're able to take off those labels and help them see further. And I help them understand that, yes, that we're created for a reason and with a purpose. Like every single one of us, our fingerprints are so unique, nobody else can have them. And so we're wired a certain way, but the faster we are able to understand who we are and look at our gifts and then develop those gifts, the what better we're going to be. But only that individual can do that. I can't take anybody else's place, just like no one else can take my place either.
Thanks so much for saying that, because actually I was reading through your 5 beliefs as well, and that was the line that drew me, is that every student is one caring individual away from being a success story. Because I feel like what you're saying, like even just holding up a mirror or asking, how are you really doing? Or trying to dismantle any of the societal, I'm going to say, lies that people believe. It takes another person to do that. You can't do that by yourself. You can't, it's just that we need each other, and that community aspect of what you're building, and that they belong to a group. That's huge. So I just want to say thanks. And as well, like, I feel like you're making heroes as well as being a hero yourself. Like, I feel like that one aha moment that you were saying, David, when you're like saying that the people are like, oh, it was like that light bulb moment, that aha moment, that also takes somebody as well. And it just like, that's when a hero is born. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so good. One of the things that we tell our students, we want them to see themselves as a hero of their story, because we all have our story. And sometimes we idolize certain individuals, like, oh my goodness, this one person or that one person, or did you see that? But we, oftentimes the person we see the most, and the person we talk to the most, and the person that we are around the most is ourselves. But the last person at times that we empower and motivate and give a compliment to is a person that is looking at us 24/7 when we go to the mirror, or that is all of the mental thoughts that we have. Like, we are the last person oftentimes that is receiving any type of praise. We'll give it out to everybody else except for ourselves. And when a student is able to switch that, when a student is able to see that they are the heroes, right? Like, Laurie, you're a hero. Ann, you're a hero. Everybody listening are heroes in their stories. And when they can see that, everything changes. Your perspective changes. Every single thing changes.
David, I feel like that part of that is like a little bit of self-care, right? Like it's a little bit selfish, but not in a bad way, right? To be able to look at ourselves and actually see that, like you were saying, Angela, we were all made with a purpose. Like, we each individually have something to give to this world, and we shouldn't be ashamed of being a little bit selfish and looking at ourselves and saying, I'm not too bad. Like, I'm not that bad, right? What is, just quickly, like, Angela, what is the process that you take to kind of build up your students, to build into your students? What does that look like?
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that, because I was meeting with our social media team on Monday. On Tuesdays, we meet Tuesdays in the morning, and they were saying, like, we really need to we want to push forth our students to have more self-care, because I think, going back to what you were saying, and even for me, I've experienced this too. In society, it's like, you can't say that you're going to take time for yourself. And I think as you become a mom and you get more and more on your plate, you almost feel bad, like, oh my gosh, I need time for me. But you don't want to tell anyone, because that makes you look like a bad mom or a bad colleague, because you want to take 15 minutes of the day to just breathe. And David and I read a lot of books, and one of them that we read is also the 5 a.m. Club. And it talks about waking up early and having time to refuel and to pray or meditate, to write what you're grateful for. And that gives you just a breath to be able to move forward. I think for me, as a perfectionist, I also have to write down, like, Angela, you did this really well. Because if not, I beat myself up. Like, Angela, you didn't do this, and that. And so, like, not just gratitude, but for me, it's also like, compliment yourself, girl, because we need to. And so, as I'm sharing all of this is what we teach our students as well. We tell them to prioritize themselves. Our team is made up of about 98% of our alumni, and they're volunteers, right? But they work with us on a daily for like the whole year. And so for us, being able to say, hey, I care more about you than your title or your position, and I want more for you than from you. And so we constantly, when we're meeting with our team, whether it's us or it's our directors, we first check in on them and say, how are you? Is there anything you need from me? And then sometimes they're like, oh, I have finals. So we're like, okay, let me support you. So I think ingrained is the fact that, like, it's okay to take care of yourself, because once you take care of yourself, you're going to be able to give so much more and be more powerful than when you're just depleting yourself constantly. So it's just that growth mindset, yes, in leadership, but also in knowing yourself and caring for yourself.
Sometimes one of the things, and if I can interrupt, just say something real quick. One of the things that we do is we try to lead out of an empty cup. We try to serve out of an empty cup. Like, we're given as much as we can, and our cup is just going and going and going, and then there's nothing there. And we need to refill that cup. It needs to be overflowing for us to be able to serve and to give and to lead and to care. But the only way you do that, Laurie, to your point, is you have to have self-care. Because if not, if you're going out of emptiness, like it's reserves and it's running out. And that's why, you see certain individuals that at times burn out because they go so fast and so hard and so long, and they don't care about themselves in the process. They don't care for themselves. They're too busy caring for others. When you're on a plane, what does the flight attendant tell you, right? If anything happens, the masks come down. Don't put theirs on. Put yours on first, and then put theirs on. It's the same concept when you look at leadership, caring, leading, in your family. You have to be able to care for yourself so that then you can successfully care for others. Now, I also want to preface that doesn't mean be a selfish jerk, right? It means caring and making sure that you're in a good spot, so that then, as Angela mentioned, you can care for your families, for your students, for your peers, your friends. But I think that cup filling piece is important.
And it goes with, I think, for our listeners, like falling in love with yourself first. Because then you get to know, what do I like? What do I hate? I love candles, right? So even as I'm in meetings, I have candles on all the time because they smell good and they fuel me. I wake up, turn on a candle, I work out, I do my thing. At night, I turn another candle. But that's something that I've learned to know about myself. And I think when you have so many titles, sometimes you get lost in translation. And so you have to be able to say, who am I really? What do I love? And what fuels me? And it's okay to ask those questions constantly on a weekly, because if not, we lose ourselves in the process.
So it's a funny story, but like I actually have like an electronic to-do list, and it actually has like action items that I want to do every day. And I actually put at the top, be awesome.
I love it. That's so good.
That I am like, be awesome every
You
day.
are awesome, Ann.
Oh,
yes.
Awesome.
I love it.
So it's like any moment during the day that I was awesome, I'm like, I get to check that one off, and I'm like,
yes,
awesome today.
I love that. I love that. That's good. That's good stuff.
It is fun, and it is a moment of joy every day. I'm like, done. Check that baby off. So I'm totally inspired, and I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation. So I really feel like in the hero making process, one of the traits is empathy. And I feel like you guys, like, I don't know what motivated you, like from that yellow napkin moment, and like maybe you're like taking an assessment of your community and your high school, and but like, is that an accurate trait that drove you, like really motivates you guys to do what you're doing?
Empathy, right? So
Yeah.
I think if you are in a leadership journey, leadership is influence with people. And if you can't have empathy with people, you're gonna have a hard time leading others into, whether it's, having a successful chapter at their school or going and graduating, whatever it is, you're gonna have a hard time doing that. And I think for us, I appreciate you sharing that. That means a lot. And I think one of the things that we strive to do is to also allow our students and our leaders and our team members to have those traits. Because going to, the belief, right, that Laurie mentioned earlier, you have to be, every student is one caring individual way. Hence the caring aspect, right? And for us, being able to empathize with our students, understand our students is key. Because then again, going to the point, like, we can have real conversations, we can know what they really need, we can support them the real way. So I would agree. I think it is an accurate assessment. And it's one of the things that we strive to, not only have our team do, but really lead it out of example. Because you have to lead out of example for then others to pick up that example, lead it themselves. So I appreciate that.
And I think to that as well. So as leaders, we lead through our strengths, right? But we connect through our vulnerabilities. And so one of the things that we work on is also sharing with students, like, things that we go through, because we don't want them to be like, well, David and Angel are, no, like, we're just like you. We're struggling. Some days are great. Some days we don't want to get out of bed. But like, it's the fact that we're vulnerable that allows us to empathize with others and to hear what's in their heart. And even through COVID, like, our students have so much going on. through virtual school, it's like one thing and another thing and so many assignments. So like, we have to be able to give grace, because just as much as someone's going to need that grace card, we're going to need it also. And so with COVID, we've been able to do that as well. Just empathize with our students and be like, okay, we're going to be a little more flex with certain requirements because of the season. I mean, it makes sense. But yes, empathizing is just so essential.
It also just reminds us that we're human.
Mm-hmm.
We're not machines. Like, to
Yes.
lower limits, and during COVID in 2020, I think we've hit our limit a lot faster. And maybe it's a good thing, because then it reminds us that we are limited, but we actually then don't go wider, but we go deeper. Like, we just dig in, go deeper with whatever we're passionate about, and in our relationships and our intentionality.
You know, you mentioned that, right, that we were human. One of the T-shirts that our team recently pushed out is a T-shirt where it's in big letters, it says humankind. And you have it's because it's one word, humankind. But then also the kind is like, it's different, just colors. So
bold, and then the other one's different, yeah.
Because not only, yes, we're humankind, but we have to be kind humans too. And that's one of the attributes that we need to be able to demonstrate to the world, because it's super critical, and it's even in the word humankind. And I think the kindness piece is one that we can often and easily throw out the window, but it's really one of the ones that we need to have with us the most throughout our days and weeks as we're maneuvering not only this, but then everything that comes ahead.
You know, David, it's funny because, you know, after the election last week, and one of the images that I saw, it wasn't a meme, but it was an image, and it was "Make America Kind Again." And it was like the red, and did you see that? The red and the blue hugging. It was like America hugging.
Hugging?
It was so, and it was so touchy. Like, I was like tearing up looking at this like picture. I was like, what is happening? But I think you're right, David. Like, it's just recapturing something that sometimes we've knowingly or unknowingly, we've lost it. We've just lost that basic fundamental being part of something larger than ourselves and connected together. Tell us, you guys, because we haven't really talked much about like your organization and what it looks like. So tell us about Hope, and like what pre-COVID, what did you look like? And then what's happened over the last 9 months? Where are you guys at now?
A lot has happened in the last 9 months. You know, I'll share, let me just share this real quick. I was having a conversation with some of our team members a couple days ago. We were doing something in the office, and, you know, they were telling us about their experience in high school this past school year, and how the last event that we had in person was at this one school. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was like so long ago. And we can't even remember like doing stuff. Anyways, so to your point, our program, so it's an after-school leadership and education program for students, specifically in the high schools. We work with right now 66 high schools across North Carolina and Georgia. We're about to launch another school over in California in the next couple of months. So all of those programs are actually pre-COVID, are in person. They have, you know, general meetings, leadership. They have educational content that they provide. They have service projects that are huge, you know, for our students to go out. I mean, they do thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in service. And all of that was pre-COVID, everything in person. We have a big annual conference where we have about, you know, 1,400 students pre-COVID in person. So that's kind of, you know, the big aspect of what we do, providing students an opportunity to create communities in their school to lead students into success. Post-COVID, it's similar yet very different. And as Angela can share more, you know, we've really taken the entire program, and, you know, very quickly in March, we went virtual with everything, which allowed us to, in a very fast pace, maneuver things to provide successful results on a virtual level. And Angela, if you want to share more about the virtual component, and then what you came up with as an idea, and kind of where we went after that.
Well, yeah, as David mentioned, pre-COVID, in person, after school, like a DECA or a beta, students are there, they're doing their thing, community service, full force, open house, the energy of the students, it's amazing. And so that's what it looked like. And now when COVID hit, we were about to have our biggest conference of the year. And we had to make that call because it was March. It was in March 28th. And so it's like right when like everybody was kind of making calls like, yes, no. And then we were like, no, we can't. Like, we can't risk it. And so we canceled there. And then the students were just like heartbroken. They're like, no. And so were we. But then after that, we had to come as a team and be like, we have to innovate. This is our time to innovate. And so what does innovation look like for us? So for us, it was allowing our team to come up with creative ways to still connect with students, but virtually. And so we started playing with Zoom. How do we make Zoom fun? Not just a conference call place where everybody's quiet and like, boom, but it's like, let's bring in music and games and Kahoots. And so we innovated, and that's why we allowed our students to be able to host meetings virtually as the end of the year was happening. And then as an organization, we said, we have to open it up for more students. Before, again, it was just students at their schools physically, they had to be there. That's why our model was mostly in Georgia and then North Carolina, because we could physically be there and present. And then through COVID, we learned that virtual presence is also so powerful. And so with that, we were like, if we are opening up this virtually, we want to allow any student across the United States and Puerto Rico specifically to connect with us. So let's open the door and let's let them in. And so our team was like completely on board. And so we jumped on that. And through that, we saw students in California and in different states just connecting and wanting to be part of Hope. And so COVID caused us to innovate and go faster than we would have wanted to per se, because of comfort and just kind of being cautious, right? But we have seen so much through that. And now we're like tackling questions as an org of like, where do we go from here, right? What are our next 5 steps? And how do we create that impact even virtually across the nation? And one of the ways that we do that is we actually have tangible gifts to our students. And what I mean by that, it's any student that becomes a member, they get like this membership box with their Cool Hope t-shirt. But then one of the things that we did as a team, what we're doing is they're getting monthly inspiration to their like actual, we mail it out. It's like snail mail, like that thing that people used to do back then.
I know. Do you remember that?
Oh man, you guys, we were talking with another guest about letter writing and how we should bring back the art of letter writing.
Indeed. And so like we get to write this just inspiration to our students on a monthly basis, and they receive it and they get to do something with it. So again, thinking outside the box, and that's what COVID has made us do. And of course it's hard, and we've seen how it's affected families, affected people that we know really close, our students. Yet I think it gives us an opportunity to innovate and to know that we're stronger than the obstacles that are coming our way.
Yeah.
Wow, I just want to say thanks, like what you're doing, especially during COVID, because like I think it just takes a lot of intentionality to then say, let's take advantage of a global pandemic to actually go bigger. Whereas a lot of people would be tempted to just like shut down. Yeah.
And we have, you know, we're connected with a lot of nonprofit groups, you know, friends of ours that are doing, you know, work across different parts of the country. And those are the struggles that really take place. And, you know, do we play it safe for, you know, the next year? Do we go a little bit smaller? Do we launch these crazy ideas? You know, do we shut down? Do we, you know, even have the ability? And I think, you know, kudos to the great people that are doing powerful work, you know, out and about across the country and really across the world. This is not an easy time to do work like this. It's not an easy time to live as a whole, right? You know, but it is not an easy time for nonprofit leaders to really continue some of these things. And, you know, for those of you that know some nonprofit leaders, you know, give them a kudos because they're doing some powerful work. And it's a beautiful thing to see them continue to move forward with their passion and what, you know, God has called them to do, even in the midst of, you know, of moments that are not easy. So, you know, appreciate that, Ann. And yeah, I mean, those are the struggles that man, we've just seen in our community of nonprofit leaders that are just real, very, very real.
So I have one like part B question to that. Like, so obviously you guys are focusing intentionally on Hispanic people. So like, how is that program? How is that different? How does that look?
Angela?
How does that look differently? So I think it's different, but yet it's like there's common ground. I think David shared this a little bit. Like one of the things we do with our youth is it's innovative. You have to have food and you have to have music, so that they're like, yes, we're on board. But then once they're there, we infuse leadership and personal growth and community service, because when you give back, going back to your purpose, you begin to find your purpose. And when students are exposed to these meetings where we have students and it's 4 leaders per chapter, right? So we train them and then they go and they lead. And some of these students are super shy. They've never spoken in front of a crowd. And we get to train them and then they go into their high schools and they have to start doing that. And so when they start speaking up, they're like, okay, I could do this. Or they freak out a little, but that's okay because that's the moment where they can grow. And so through that, our students are just learning and growing and going places, but yet the sense of belonging, it's a need, it's a human need. It's not just like a Hispanic need. And so by us creating these communities where student feels like they can be themselves, it allows them to connect. And so I think our biggest thing is one of the reasons that we called a Hispanic organization promoting education. It's because we knew that nobody was looking at Hispanic students closely. And so we wanted to be those people to say, hey, you're Hispanic, you're Latino, like we see you, we hear you, we got you kind of thing. Yet we allow any student to jump in. We have officers that are not Latinos and they enjoy it, they love it. So yes, we're a community of Hispanics, just to say, hey, I know you, I hear you, yet anyone is welcome to join our program.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, Angela, you know, I want to go back to high school so I can become an alumni and then I can open up a chapter for you guys in Chicago. That's my plan. I'm going to go back to high school.
Let's do it.
Graduate your program. And
you should vlog about it. I'm sure you can get a lot of students interested in it.
Oh, you guys are so great. And I want to just, before we wrap up, David, like I do want to just reiterate one thing you said, which I thought was really powerful. And I don't want our listeners to miss this is what you said, David. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And if you have a purpose, you have a reason to live. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a great way just to end this podcast. Mm-hmm. And Angela and David, we're really grateful that you joined us here today. And where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so if you want to find Hope, you can go, we're on all social media platforms. You can find us at @IHopeStrong. So I Hope Strong. And then my social media, for anybody that wants to connect, David Araya 7. Angela is Angela X Hurtado with an H in there. We'd love to connect. We'd love to do life with you. And Laurie and thank you so much for truly being hero makers. It is a beautiful thing what you are doing. We're super humbled and blessed to be a part of this program. And we can't wait to see the many more stories that you all bring on.
Yes. Thank you for creating this platform to showcase heroes, but you're heroes yourselves. So thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We're so grateful. We're excited to continue to see your work and to see everything else and all the other stories that you're going to be sharing. Yeah. Super exciting.
Thank you guys. And Anne reminded me, just as a way to close, to remind all of you guys that we also have a Patreon page. We launched that and I keep forgetting to talk about it. So if you guys want to support this venture with like $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to give, then we are over on Patreon. We'll put a link to that in our show notes as well. But thank you guys for listening, and I hope you love this episode. Go back and listen to some of the ones before where we talk about some of these topics. I feel like Anne, we're hitting recurring themes here, and one of them today was that even what David said, which is when we ask people, even, you know, how are you? How are you really? Like being the person who's going to be intentionally living and listening to other people around us. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.